The cold air of the executive floor felt different. It was thin like glass, and it seemed to magnify the frantic thumping in Michael's chest. He looked at the polished mahogany table, and then at the faces of the board, all success, all stone. He hadn't slept in 3 days, and now he was about to risk everything for a moment of honesty. He wasn't prepared for the judgment that was surely coming. He was prepared, however, for the surrender. But what he heard next, from the woman at the head of the table, the CEO, was a sentence that would rearrange the very foundation of his life. Michael was a man built on structure, a senior design engineer. He'd spent the last 12 years climbing the ladder at Omnitech, a leader in renewable energy. He was reliable, meticulous, and often the first one in the office. His world was defined by deadlines met, projections exceeded, and a calm, predictable sense of order. He and his wife, Sarah, had a life that felt, to an outsider, perfect. A cozy home, a loving marriage, and the sweet, bright light of their 7-year-old son, Ethan. Ethan was a whirlwind of energy, obsessed with building things, just like his father. Their garage was a workshop of half-finished projects, a solar-powered toy car, a birdhouse with its own miniature weather vane. Michael often looked at the happy dust covering the floor and thought, this is what it's all for. But 3 months ago, the predictable structure of their lives shattered. The diagnosis was swift, brutal, and utterly unexpected, a rare, aggressive form of pediatric cancer. Suddenly, Michael's meticulous project, planning and advanced engineering, degrees were worthless against a tiny, invisible enemy. The world outside the hospital room grew blurry. Deadlines for the Phoenix project, Michael's career-defining assignment, began to slip. His suit started looking rumpled. The calls from his supervisor, Mr. Harrison, went from concerned to sharply professional. Michael was running a race on 2 tracks, and he was failing on both. Every time he stood in the operating room hallway, praying for a good sign, he felt the heavy weight of the Phoenix project and the hundreds of jobs it represented on his back. He found himself telling small lies. I'm taking a field trip for research, he'd tell Harrison. I'm working from home on a special design phase, he'd tell Sarah. The truth was, he was spending his lunch breaks making sure Ethan finished his bland hospital meal, and his late nights researching experimental treatments instead of circuit boards. The pressure reached a breaking point a week before the final presentation to the board. Ethan's fever spiked. The doctors needed to run an urgent battery of tests, and Sarah, worn thin and trembling, couldn't be left alone. Michael knew what he had to do. He went to his supervisor, Harrison, whose office wall was adorned with plaques celebrating efficiency. Mr. Harrison, Michael began, his voice rough, I need the next 4 days off, completely. I can finish the final models tonight, but the presentation, I just can't do it. Not this week. Harrison didn't look up from his monitor. Michael, are you serious? The Phoenix project is 90% of the quarter's revenue. The board is flying in for this. This is your career, man. I've covered for you before, but this is non-negotiable. It's my son, sir, Michael said, the words a raw, low plea. He's 7. This is life or death. The board won't fire me for 4 days. Harrison finally looked up, his expression a chilling mixture of sympathy and cold practicality. They won't fire you for 4 days, no, but they will fire you for missing the most important presentation of the year. And you know who is chairing that meeting, Michael? Miss Eleanor Vance, the CEO, the one who built this company from a garage startup. She despises excuses. You show up or you lose everything. Michael walked away feeling a profound emptiness. He understood Harrison's fear. Eleanor Vance was a legend, a woman known for her sharp intellect and equally sharp business decisions. She was a CEO who valued results over rhetoric and passion over pity. That night, Michael worked until his eyes burned, completing the technical models and preparing the slides. But he knew with chilling certainty that he could not leave Ethan's side. He could not choose a job over his child. The morning of the presentation arrived. Instead of going to the office, Michael drove to the hospital. He sat by Ethan's bed, holding his tiny warm hand. The phone in his pocket buzzed repeatedly. Harrison, the board. He silenced it. He was choosing. He spent 4 hours there, watching Ethan finally drift into a peaceful sleep. And then Michael did the only thing he could. He drove to the Omnitech headquarters, knowing the presentation had long since begun, knowing he was late, knowing he had failed his team. He just wanted to resign with dignity, face to face. When Michael opened the enormous oak door to the conference room, every head snapped toward him. The room was silent, the air heavy with expectation. Michael saw Harrison's mortified expression, and then he saw her, Eleanor Vance. She sat at the head of the table, her silver hair pulled back, her eyes, clear and intelligent, fixed directly on him. Michael walked slowly to the table, his final professional act. "I apologize for the interruption," he said, his voice surprisingly steady. "Miss Vance, members of the board, I know I missed the presentation. I was unable to attend. The truth is, my son Ethan is gravely ill. He is 7 and he has cancer. This morning I simply could not leave him." He took a deep breath, steeling himself for the inevitable. Cold response. "Your priorities are clearly elsewhere, Mr. Michael. I have finalized all my models, and the presentation is ready. I'll send a full resignation letter by the end of the day. I thank you for the opportunity you gave me." He placed his detailed technical binder on the table. Eleanor Vance looked at the binder. Then she looked at Michael, her expression unreadable. She let the silence hang in the air for a long moment. Harrison shifted nervously in his chair. Finally, Miss Vance spoke. Her voice wasn't loud or demanding. It was soft, almost gentle. "Michael," she said.
"Sit down."
Michael hesitated. "Ma'am, Just sit down, Michael," she repeated, her gaze unwavering. "Tell me about Ethan." Confused, Michael sat. He spoke about Ethan's love for solar cars, about his bravery, about Sarah. He spoke not as an engineer, but as a father. When he finished, the room remained silent. Michael prepared for the final official termination. Eleanor Vance turned to the board, her gaze sweeping the table. "Gentlemen, this company was founded on a simple principle: people first. We build things, yes, but we build lives first. Michael is one of our best. His mind is brilliant, his work ethic is unmatched, and his heart is clearly right where it should be." Then she looked back at Michael. A hint of something Michael couldn't quite name. Was it sorrow? Empathy? In her eyes. "Michael, I'm not accepting your resignation," she said firmly. "You are not being fired. You are a father first and an engineer second. That is the correct order." She paused, then gave an instruction that stunned the room. "Harrison, I want you to assign 2 of our best engineers to take over the day-to-day oversight of the Phoenix project. Give Michael a 6-month leave of absence immediately. And Michael, I want you to put your company medical and benefit package to its full, absolute use. Whatever Ethan needs, whatever helps your child, we will provide it. Don't worry about the money. Just worry about the miracle." Michael couldn't speak. He just sat there, the tension of the last 3 months dissolving into a profound, overwhelming wave of relief. He realized that the woman he had feared, the one he had expected to deliver the harshest judgment, was not a cold, calculating machine. She was a human being who understood the difference between a crisis of production and a crisis of life. Later, Michael learned the deeper truth. Eleanor Vance had once lost her own young daughter to a sudden, devastating illness years ago. Before the company even began, she had hidden that pain, channeling it into her success. But she had never forgotten the feeling of being utterly helpless when life demands everything you have. Michael spent the next 6 months by his son's side. He had the freedom to focus completely on Ethan, without the crushing burden of financial anxiety or professional guilt. He saw Sarah finally relax, her shoulders dropping from a permanent state of tension. The Phoenix project launched successfully without Michael, thanks to his initial groundwork and Ms. Vance's clear directive. And in the hospital, the little solar-powered car Ethan had been building with his father finally got its final wiring. 6 months after that day in the boardroom, Michael walked into the Omnitech headquarters again, not as an employee asking for forgiveness, but as a father carrying a photograph of a smiling, energetic boy. Ethan was in remission. The journey wasn't over, but the miracle had begun. Michael didn't go to his old cubicle. He went straight to the corner office. Eleanor Vance stood up when he entered. Michael didn't offer a professional handshake. He just looked her in the eyes and said, "Thank you. You saved his life. And you saved mine." Eleanor just smiled softly and placed a reassuring hand on his arm. "Michael," she said, "we just gave you the time you needed to do the only job that ever truly matters." She looked down at the photograph Michael carried. "He looks like a builder." Michael nodded, tears finally filling his eyes. He is building his future now. The story of Michael and Eleanor Vance became a quiet legend within. Omnitech, a reminder that a company is not a structure of concrete and steel, but a community of human hearts. The board learned that the greatest business decision is often the one built not on profit, but on profound, selfless kindness. And Michael, he returned to work with a renewed purpose, forever changed. He understood that sometimes divine intervention doesn't come in a flash of light, but in the quiet, sincere voice of a CEO who chose humanity over the bottom line. He learned that even on the highest floors of corporate power, empathy can always find a way to breathe. Sometimes, the smallest act of kindness can change someone's world. Share this story if it touched your heart.